So, let's go. The universe runs on numbers, most of them are boring, but a handful are so suspiciously perfect that serious physicists, sober, tenured, Nobel Prize winning physicists, have looked at them and used words like rigged, words like monkeyed with. Tonight you're going to see 10 of them, coincidences stacked on coincidences, starting with one hanging in the sky above your head right now and ending with one sitting in your chair. Some of them have explanations, some of them have excuses, and at least one of them is you. Let's count. Number 1. The perfect eclipse. Look up during a total solar eclipse and you're watching a magic trick with no magician. The moon slides in front of the sun and covers it exactly. Not roughly. Exactly. The black disk fits the bright one like a coin over a coin. Here's why that should bother you. The sun is about 400 times wider than the moon. It's also about 400 times farther away. Two completely unrelated numbers, one set by how stars form, one set by a planetary collision 4.5 billion years ago, and they cancel out almost perfectly. So both disks take up the same half degree of your sky, and the match is so tight it wobbles. The moon's orbit isn't a perfect circle, so when it's slightly far from you, it can't quite cover the sun. You get a ring of fire burning around a black hole in the sky. When it's slightly close, you get totality. The coincidence lives on a knife's edge, flickering between almost and exactly. If you stood in totality, you know it doesn't feel like astronomy. The temperature drops, birds stop mid-song, the horizon glows like sunset in every direction at once, and the sun's atmosphere, invisible your entire life, suddenly hangs there, a white crown you can see with your naked eyes. People scream, people cry. Grown adults chase this for decades, structuring whole lives around 4-minute windows. And here's the part almost nobody knows. You're watching a limited engagement, lasers bounced off mirrors the Apollo crews left on the moon show it's drifting away from you, about 3.8 centimeters a year. In roughly 600 million years, the moon will look permanently too small, and there will never be a total solar eclipse again. Of all the eras to be alive, you landed inside the window. No other planet in the solar system gets a show like this. Just here. Just now. And that's the coincidence you can see. The next one is hiding inside every atom of your body. Number 2, the number that haunts physics. There's a number stitched into reality, and physicists have been quietly losing their minds over it for a century. It's called the fine structure constant, and it's about 1 divided by 137. It has no units, no meters, no seconds, no kilograms. Measure it on Earth, on Mars, in another galaxy, same pure number. And it controls something enormous, how strongly light talks to matter. Every time an electron spits out a photon or swallows one, this number sets the odds. Which means it quietly runs chemistry, fire, sunlight, the signals crawling through your brain as you listen to this. Nudge it a few percent and stars burn wrong, atoms bond wrong, and the chemistry that builds you stops working. It sits in a narrow band that allows you to exist, and nobody knows why. We've measured it to about 15 parts in 100 billion. That's like measuring the distance between New York and Los Angeles down to the width of a hair. We know its value better than almost anything in science. We understand where it comes from, not at all. No theory predicts it. You can't calculate it. It's just there. Richard Feynman called it a magic number and said you might say the hand of God wrote it. And we don't know how he pushed his pencil. It gets stranger. Wolfgang Pauli, one of the architects of quantum mechanics, became genuinely obsessed with 137. He chased it for decades. He discussed it with his psychiatrist, who happened to be Carl Jung. And the story goes that when Pauli was checked into a Zurich hospital in 1958 and saw the number on his door, room 137, he said, "I will never get out of here." He didn't. He died in that room. Take that story however you want. But the number is still sitting there, unexplained in every atom you own. And the next coincidence is the only reason those atoms include carbon at all. Number 3, the carbon cheat code. You are a carbon-based life form, and carbon should barely exist. Here's the problem. Carbon gets built inside dying stars by smashing 3 helium nuclei together. But you can't smash 3 things together at once. You have to do it in steps. Step 1. 2 helium nuclei fuse. The thing they make is so unstable, it falls apart in about a tenth of a quadrillionth of a second. So step 2, catching a third helium nucleus, has to happen inside that absurd little window. Run the numbers naively, and the universe should make almost no carbon at all. No carbon, no chemistry of life, no you. And yet here you are. In 1953, an astronomer named Fred Hoyle stared at this problem and made a wild prediction. Carbon must have a cheat code, a hidden energy level sitting at almost exactly the right spot to catch that collision and lock it in. A resonance that supercharges the reaction. He badgered a lab at Caltech into looking for it. They found it within days, right where he said it would be. That resonance boosts carbon production by orders of magnitude, shifted a hair upward, and stars make a trace of carbon, then stop. Shift the balance the other way, and every carbon atom burns straight into oxygen the moment it's born. Either direction, the periodic table loses its most social element, the one that builds chains, rings, proteins, brains. Now, the honest version of this story, the legend says Hoyle predicted it by reasoning, I exist, therefore the resonance exists. That part got polished up decades later. At the time, he was just doing stubborn bookkeeping on how stars cook elements. But the resonance itself is real, the luck is real, and Hoyle himself stopped believing in luck. Years later, he wrote that a common sense interpretation of the facts suggests a superintellect has monkeyed with physics. A superintellect. Monkeyed. That's not a YouTuber talking. That's the man who figured out where your atoms come from. Every carbon atom in your body, and you're carrying around a billion of them, threaded that needle inside a star that died before the sun was born. And if a hidden energy level feels like a small thing to balance a universe on, wait until you see what the whole universe was balanced on. Number 4, the impossible balance. At the moment of its birth, the universe had one number to get right, its density. How much stuff per unit of space? Too much. And gravity wins early. Everything collapses back into a fireball before the first star ever ignites. Too little, and expansion wins. Matter spreads so thin, so fast, that nothing ever clumps into galaxies. 2 failure modes, crunch or fog. The universe did neither. And when cosmologists ran the clock backward to find out how precisely it had to be balanced at the very beginning, the answer came out to 1 part in 10 to the 62nd power. That's a 1 with 62 zeros after it. There's no honest way to picture that, but let's fail together. Throw a dart from one edge of the observable universe across 93 billion light years and hit a single proton dead center. That's roughly the precision we're talking about. The universe is a pencil balanced on its tip, and 13.8 billion years later, it still hasn't fallen over. When physicists see tuning like that, they don't say lucky us and move on. They assume something forced it. The leading suspect is called inflation. The idea that in its first sliver of a second, the universe expanded so violently that space itself got stretched flat, the way a crumpled balloon loses its wrinkles when you inflate it enough. Blow anything up that hard and it comes out balanced. It's a beautiful fix. Hold on to it, because the same trick is about to be asked to explain something even creepier, and you'll get to watch it strain. Number 5, the temperature that shouldn't match. Point a radio telescope at any patch of sky and you'll pick up a faint glow. Heat left over from the Big Bang itself, still hanging in space after 13.8 billion years. It's everywhere. And everywhere, it's the same temperature, 2.725 degrees above absolute zero, matching across the entire sky to 1 part in 100,000. That sounds tidy. It's actually a crime scene. Things match temperatures by touching, by mixing, like hot coffee and cold milk. But take 2 patches on opposite sides of your sky. When that glow was released, those regions were so far apart that nothing, no light, no signal, no influence of any kind could have ever traveled between them. They were perfect strangers. The universe was too young for any contact. Yet there they are, matching to 5 decimal places. It's like 2 writers on opposite sides of the planet, never met, never spoke, no shared language, handing in the same 1,000-page novel, word for word. The official fix is the same hero from The Last Coincidence, inflation. If the entire visible universe started as one tiny patch, small enough to mix, to touch, to agree on a temperature, and then got catastrophically blown up, the strangers aren't strangers. They're family, separated at birth. One theory, two impossible coincidences solved. Almost too clean. And here's the itch. Inflation has never been directly proven. In 2014, scientists announced they'd found its smoking gun in the sky's polarization. Champagne, headlines, Nobel buzz. It turned out to be dust in our own galaxy. And one of the men who helped invent inflation, Paul Steinhardt, has since turned on it, arguing it's so flexible it can explain anything, which in science is another way of saying it explains nothing. So keep a hand on your wallet. And remember Steinhardt's name because the next coincidence bothered him so much, he gave it an official one. Number 6. The coincidence physicists actually named. The universe is mostly made of two invisible things. Dark matter, the unseen mass, holding galaxies together. Edgar makes up about 27% of everything. Dark energy, the force pushing space apart faster and faster, makes up about 68. Everything you've ever seen, every star, every planet, every person, is the leftover 5%. Here's the coincidence. Those two invisible empires are at war, and as space expands, matter thins out while dark energy doesn't dilute at all, which means matter dominated the past, dark energy owns the future, and the two armies are evenly matched exactly once in the entire history of the universe. That once is now. Within a rounding error, the era you're alive in is the one brief crossover when the two biggest things in existence happen to balance. Rewind a few billion years, while dark energy is a footnote. Fast forward a few hundred billion, matter is a rumor. You showed up during the handover. Out of a timeline that stretches functionally forever, your species woke up during the one scene change. Physicists noticed, and they didn't dress it up. In 1997, Paul Steinhardt stood up at a Princeton conference and asked the question that's haunted cosmology since: why now? It's been called the cosmic coincidence problem ever since. The suspicion is sitting right there in the official name. And dark energy hides a second monster. When physicists calculate how strong it should be, quantum theory predicts a number 10 to the 120th times bigger than what we measure. A 1 followed by 120 zeros, too big. It's been called the worst prediction in the history of physics. The universe ignored the math and picked instead almost the only value that lets galaxies exist. Numbers landing in narrow windows, eras lining up with observers. You can feel the pattern forming. Which is exactly why the next item is here, because the last time a pattern looked this good, it was a trap. Number 7. The pattern that predicted planets. In the 1760s, astronomers noticed the planets were spaced like rungs on a ladder. Take a simple number sequence, run it through one little formula, and out come the orbits. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, all sitting almost exactly where the pattern says. It's called the Titius-Bode law, and it had no physics behind it whatsoever, just numbers behaving suspiciously well. Then it started making predictions. In 1781, William Herschel discovered Uranus, parked almost exactly on the pattern's next rung. The skeptics went quiet. The pattern also insisted there should be a planet in the gap between Mars and Jupiter, so astronomers formed an actual search party. They called themselves the Celestial Police, and on the first night of the 1800s, they found Ceres, sitting in the gap, right where the numbers demanded. 2 predictions, 2 discoveries. At that point, wouldn't you believe? The solar system was following a code. The arrangement was too precise to be unplanned. Then came Neptune. The pattern said it should orbit at 39 times the Earth-Sun distance. Neptune showed up at 30, off by nearly a third. No excuse, no patch, no rescue. The beautiful pattern face-planted, instantly demoted from law of nature to lucky streak. Logicians literally started using it in classrooms as a warning about fooling yourself. And it had happened before. Johannes Kepler once proved with gorgeous geometry, that the planet's spacing encoded God's favorite 5 shapes nested like Russian dolls. Then Newton found gravity, and the sacred geometry dissolved into ordinary history. Planets sit where the chaos of formation happened to drop them. Hold that lesson. Your brain is a pattern-finding machine so eager it sees faces in clouds and codes in coffee stains. Some cosmic coincidences are exactly that, us wanting it, but not all of them, because the very next one looks like mysticism, sounds like mysticism, and turns out to be a real machine. Number 8. The clockwork orbits. Track Venus from Earth over 8 years, and its path traces a 5-petaled flower around the sky, geometry so clean it looks engraved. The reason: Venus circles the Sun almost exactly 13 times for every 8 Earth orbits. 13, 8, and 13 minus 8 gives the 5 petals. If those numbers tickle something in your brain, they're consecutive numbers from the Fibonacci sequence, which is all numerologists needed to declare the heavens golden ratio approved. 40 light years away, it gets better. A dim red star called TRAPPIST-1 holds 7 Earth-sized planets, and their orbits lock together in whole number ratios: 8 to 5, 5 to 3, then 3 to 2, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, 3 to 2. The longest chain of synchronized orbits ever found. Convert those rhythms into sound and you don't get noise, you get chords. 4 centuries after Kepler dreamed of a music of the spheres, telescopes found an actual song. So this is it, right? The smoking gun. Planets don't just sit in patterns, they dance in integer time. Here's the twist: this one we can fully explain, and the explanation doesn't kill the wonder, it relocates it. Young planets are born in a disk of gas and slowly drift inward. When their orbits drift near a simple ratio, gravity starts tugging rhythmically, same pull, same spot, over and over, until the planets lock like 2 pendulum clocks on the same shelf syncing their ticks. No miracle. Just physics finding the groove, and once locked, the rhythm protects them. Pluto crosses Neptune's orbit constantly, but their 3-2 lock means they can never collide. The music is also armor. It's why these systems survive billions of years. So the flower is real, the chords are real, and gravity wrote them. Remember this one. It's the calibration point. Numerated proof that looks designed sometimes just means we found the mechanism. Now apply that standard to a number that terrorized the 20th century's greatest minds. Number 9, the numbers that keep repeating. In the 1930s, physicists kept tripping over the same monstrous number in places it had no business repeating. Compare the electric force between a proton and an electron to the gravitational force between them, and you get roughly 10 to the 40th power. A 1 with 40 zeros. Fine. Weird, but fine. Then measure the age of the universe in nature's own smallest time units, and out comes 10 to the 40th. Again. Count the particles in the observable universe and you get that same number, squared. To most people that's a shrug. To Paul Dirac, the man who predicted antimatter before anyone found it, a mind so precise his colleagues joked he spoke in finished equations, it was unbearable. Numbers built from atoms shouldn't know anything about numbers built from the whole cosmos. In 1937, he decided it could not be chance and proposed something radical. The coincidence stays true forever because gravity itself is weakening as the universe ages. The constants aren't constant. The dials are still moving. It was testable. We tested it. Those same moon lasers from the eclipse, plus the metronome ticking of distant pulsars, show gravity's strength holding steady to better than 1 part in 10 trillion per year. Dirac was wrong. Gravity isn't fading. Gravity. But the autopsy turned up something stranger than the theory. In 1961, physicist Robert Dicke pointed out what Dirac's equation was really saying. That 10 to the 40th age of the universe isn't a random number. It's the age when stars have lived long enough to forge carbon and haven't yet all burned out. Too early, and there's no one made of star stuff to do the measuring. Too late, and the lights are off. Any being who ever checks those numbers will automatically find them matching. Sit with that, because it just flipped the whole video. The coincidence wasn't in the sky, it was in who was looking and when, which leaves only one item on the list. Go find a mirror. Number 10. The final coincidence. You. Out of every object this channel has ever covered, black holes, magnetars, dying probes, the most statistically obnoxious one is you. Look at where you sit. In the ladder of sizes running from atoms up to stars, you're parked near the middle rung. And that's not trivia, it's a requirement. Smaller, and there aren't enough atoms to build a brain. Much larger, and physics starts breaking your body faster than biology can fix it. Complexity lives in the middle of the staircase, and that's exactly where you woke up. Now look at when. You already know you're inside the eclipse window, inside the dark energy crossover. But here's the one that should keep you up tonight. The universe is currently legible. The afterglow of the Big Bang is still warm enough to detect. Distant galaxies are still visible, still telling us space is expanding. Give it 100 billion years and the acceleration wins. Every other galaxy gets dragged past the horizon, the afterglow fades below anything measurable, and the sky goes permanently blank. Astronomers born in that era would do everything right and conclude they live in one small, static, lonely island of stars. The evidence will have left. The truth of the universe has an expiration date, and you exist before it. So, 10 coincidences. What's the verdict? There are only 4 doors. 1. Design. Something rigged to the dials. Hoyle's super intellect with a pencil. 2. The multiverse. Endless universes with shuffled numbers. And of course, the lottery winner is the one taking the selfie. 3. Hidden physics. A deeper law, still undiscovered, that forces these values like Newton's gravity dissolved Kepler's sacred shapes. 4. Dicke's door. Selection. Nobody ever observes a universe they can't exist in, so every observer, everywhere, forever, looks up and sees numbers that look suspiciously kind. Tonight, nobody on Earth can tell you which door is real. The eclipse will retire in 600 million years either way. Maybe the universe is rigged, maybe it's infinite, maybe it's simply the only version anyone could ever wake up in. But the numbers had to be exactly these for someone to be here counting them. And tonight, the someone counting is you.